Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 say, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. I was getting ready to share a devotion at my church service during one of our evening services. So this was back in the day when we still had evening services. I was a fairly new believer at the time, and I was new to writing. I was new to this whole Christian adventure. And when I was asked to write the devotion, I thought, sure, I would love the opportunity to do that. Not thinking and not taking into account the fact that we had 4 children at home, 3 of which were under 3 years old. And at times, we didn't know whether to eat, sleep, or go to the bathroom or shower. Like it was crazy busy. I always tell people I would have rather had twins than the way that our children were born. So we have one son, and then 6 years later, we have another son. 10 months later, we have a little girl. And then 13 months later, we have another little girl. And so life was busy. In the days leading up to this Sunday evening service, I was just sweating it. And I was constantly in prayer, Lord, what am I going to say? I don't know what I'm going to do. Father, this, Father, that. I was just constantly going to him. And then one day I was making applesauce. I was just sitting. Well, I wasn't sitting. I was standing at the kitchen table and in front of the kitchen table, and I was peeling the apples. And the Lord impressed upon me how the apples with the bruises are the sweetest apples. And so this thought began to germinate in my mind about the fact that apples with the bruises have the most sweetest flavor. And so the day arrives, and people are coming up to me in the morning saying, oh, we can't wait to hear the devotion that God's laid on your heart. And I'm thinking, yeah, me too. I can't wait to hear it too. And so I brought all the kids home from church. And so it was before my husband was a believer and coming to church all the time. So I dropped the kids off at home with him. And then I went to the busiest, quietest place that I knew, which is the mall. I needed the distraction of all of the people, all of the noise, all of the busyness, but I needed to be able to sit and tune it out, to hear it in the background, but to not have to attend to it, to not have to go to the crying child, to not have to do the dishes, to not have to make a meal, all of that. And so as I get to the mall, I sit down in the food court, and there in the food court, the most brilliant thing happens. I sit down, and I'm sitting at I'm going to paint you a little picture here. In our mall here in Southern Ontario, Cambridge, there is a hockey rink inside of our mall, and the food court is right there by the mall. So I was sitting on the ledge, like a bar stool, around the outside of the food court, so I could see all that was happening. I could see the hockey game that was playing, I could see all the people walking. And I just sat down, and I was so immersed in this story, this devotion that the Lord gave me, that I stood up. An hour later, I had my full devotion written. It was a 2,000-word devotion. Not that I knew anything at the time. I just thought, wow, this was amazing, and was ready for church. I went home, I got the kids, and went back to church. And that was it. So I share all that to say this: procrastination is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in the sense of this. While I embraced the reality of my life. The kids were busy, there was just priorities. There was different things that was vying for my attention all the time. And I knew this. And because I knew this, I knew after this experience how God wired me. So it was while I was peeling the apples and making the applesauce that the idea came about the bruised apples give the sweetest applesauce. And then it was while I was doing he gave me the premise for the story of the apple orchard farmer who would go out and he would go to town to sell his apples, and he was so concerned because it was a harvest time and all the apples were falling and there was nobody there to catch them, nobody there to pick them up, and nobody there to collect them. And so he was just so concerned and he needed to get back. And as he was going back to his farm, he was reminded of the fact that within each apple there is a seed, whether the apple is bruised or still attached to the tree, there is a seed, many seeds within each apple. And regardless of where the apple is at that time, the apple still has potential and still has value and still can be used in the kingdom of God. It blew my mind. But it was in the preparation, whether it was the making the applesauce, it was doing the dishes, it was doing the laundry and folding the laundry, where all of these things, all of these thoughts were percolating in my mind and they were formulating. And what was happening as I was taking care of all of the other things that I needed to take care of, I was having dialogue with the Lord. The Lord was speaking. And as I was having dialogue with the Lord and these thoughts were bubbling and percolating in my mind, what I was learning was the still small voice of God. And so this translates now into, as a leader, when you walk into, for me, I'm recently transitioned from senior pastor position to full-time speaker. And so for me, it translated into, walking into the service on Sunday morning and you don't have a children's time anymore because the person called in sick. You don't have this time, you don't have this time. And then being able just to listen to that, to God's voice, and to be able to go with what he says without panicking, without feeling all stressed out or anything like that. God has birthed that in people who have this superpower of procrastination, as I call it, because it is a superpower. When you can harness procrastination and use it for your favor, in your favor, then it becomes a superpower because it allows you to plan for one thing over here while you're continuing to build over here. And it allows this execution to come off like you've been planning the same amount over here. It's incredible the superpower that procrastination is when it is harnessed and used properly. A curse. Why is procrastination a curse? You might be thinking because you wait till the last minute to get everything done. That is not why procrastination is a curse. Procrastination is a curse because we take on too much. We don't like to say no because we know our superpower. We know that we can get it done, and we can get done what you've asked us to get done. We can get it done very well. Most times I do my best work in that last 15, 20 minutes before it is that needs to be done. That's normally when I do my best work, but I don't want to live there. And so I need to know my limits. I need to know when I have enough on my plate. I need to know that it's okay to say no to good things, because I want to say yes to God's best thing. Psalm 32:8 says that God will lead us down the best pathway for our life. There is a difference between good and best. Good is good. Good, there's nothing wrong with good. Good will get us through the day. Good will give us a happy life. But the best that God has for us is a life of abundance. It's a life of, and I don't mean material abundance. Don't hear that abundance, the abundance of joy, the abundance of peace, the abundance of patience. I'm still working on that one. But God's abundant life, when we are able to understand our limitations and set those boundaries in place. Just looking at my notes here, and I just want to make sure I got everything, and which I do. And friends, thank you so much for this time. I would love the opportunity to share with you a little bit about me. Is I am a speaker. I'm a contributing author to Radical Abundance. I'm a Strength Finders coach, and I'm also an acquisitions editor for Abundance Books. I used to be a victim. I used to live a life of slavery to drugs. I thought everybody was out to get me. Nobody had my best in mind. I blamed everybody for my choices, for my behavior. And then I met Jesus. He was the missing piece, and he changed everything in my life. And now it's my desire to share Jesus with others so that they can know his PEACE, peace. Thanks. You can find me at www.faiththroughhealing.com. I'd love for you to stop by. I have a freebie there for you to sign up for my newsletter. I like to send out heart wisdom once a month to your inbox. I promise not to spam you. I look forward to connecting with you. Thanks so much, and God bless. Bye-bye.